see the fire in your eyes.
The day Red Dead Redemption 2 was released still feels like yesterday. It's hard to believe that 5 years has already passed since the release of this masterpiece. What hasn't changed is how this game still immerses and captivates gamers in its rugged, beautiful yet harsh reality of the Wild West. And I wanted to celebrate the legacy of this game and discuss not only the impact it had on the gaming world, but also a subjective reading on it. Rockstar Games was already known for making freestyle, open world games with highly investing stories, but Red Dead Redemption 2 brought forth an even greater standard of the storytelling in video games. The first Red Dead Redemption was already a very emotional tale, but the depth of the sequel's storytelling made even predecessor look average. The hype surrounding the game was extraordinary, but considering the quality of some of the prior Rockstar Games releases, not many would have expected a game to outdo all of them, especially when it comes to the storytelling. The story did rely on a degree of familiarity as it involved multiple characters, including John Marston, the protagonist. Despite the protagonist being a new face, regardless of the intriguing surrounding the history of the Van der Linde gang and these new characters. Many anticipated reuniting with the beloved characters of the first game more. Little did they know that Arthur Morgan, the protagonist, would be such a powerful character that even John would become secondary to him. Such has been the impact of the Red Dead Redemption 2. It was a subtle original entry in the Rockstar Games' vast universe of open-world action-adventure that would immediately make nearly every nuance within the something iconic. So this is what I want to seek while discussing about this. The legacy of the Red Dead Redemption 2 with its 5th anniversary since its release.
Only just to burn. That's the way it is.
Ever since the arrival of the first Red Dead Redemption, many fans hoped for more of Red Dead Redemption, for it to turn into a franchise of its own. The first game had earned quite the following despite not even releasing on PC. With the release of another major hit from Rockstar, like Grand Theft Auto 5, the expectations related to a possible Red Dead Redemption sequel elevated even further. On October 26, 2018, world witnessed the long-awaited arrival of Red Dead Redemption 2. In a setting that preceded that of its predecessor, against the backdrop of the late 19th century American Wild West. The game turned out to be extremely immersive, with both gamers and critics singing praises for its meticulous attention to detail, compelling narrative, and innovative gameplay mechanics. Upon its release, Red Dead Redemption 2 became one of the most highly acclaimed games of all time, with there barely being any gripes among most critics and reviewers. This was a remarkable achievement for a game that took so many risks, as it not only made the open world aspect of the other Rockstar game style more grounded, but was also a much longer story, with every character written with immersive depth. While the first Red Dead Redemption felt more like a satirical Sergio Leone of Western film, the Wild West experience of Red Dead Redemption 2 ended up as something much more detailed and character-driven, with even the game's beautiful scenery having a lot of attention to detail. The world of the game feels so interactive, with there being loads of unique NPCs and animals to interact with in very particular ways. The gameplay mechanics has also brought a lot of more specificity to the vitality of not only Arthur Morgan, but also his horses, which is what makes the gameplay feel much more grounded. The heart of the game, however, is the moving story of its protagonist Arthur Morgan, who journeys from being the Van der Linde gang's loyal enforcer to a man grappling with the questions of morality and loyalty. With how the game represents its honor system, it feels even more impactful. The game's beautifully explored themes of how sudden culture changes influence transformation among people, especially those who are bound to struggle. It's a tale that depicts so many different and unique characters become at a very steady pace. Not to forget the outstandingly well-written downfall of Dutch Verlinde and the marvelous written support stories like those of Sadie Adler and John Marston. The game's combat system struck a perfect balance between realism and excitement, whether it was the high-stakes shootout in the street of St. Denis or a quiet moment spent fishing by the river. It was a Wild West experience that was delivered on all fronts, complete with captivating heists and tense standoffs. The game's multiplayer experience isn't as talked about as that of the Grand Theft Auto 5 and has stopped receiving major updates altogether, but it still ended up being appreciable enough for those who really fancied the game's mechanics. With 5 years gone by since its release, Red Dead Redemption 2 is still as relevant as ever. The profound impact it had on the world of gaming was undeniable, which is why it still has a resolute fan community, where people will share their ideas, content, and theories related to the game. It may not have won the Game of the Year award, but it has easily been more relevant and impactful, perhaps even than God of War as of now. The first Red Dead Redemption introduced its protagonist as a solitary badass who had to take a turn for the law due to the certain circumstances. Red Dead Redemption 2, however, introduces Arthur Morgan as the flawed yet commanding character, whose struggles was obvious from the get-go. The whole gang was depicted in a state constant struggle, and no character felt like a satirical generalization in any way. The in-depth transformation of the characters almost seemed real, with a lot of relatabilities found in gang struggles. Despite the criminalization of outlaws like them, they were just people looking for a way to survive in this corporatist environment. The game's narrative does not only make you question the morality of the protagonists, but also makes you question the very parameters that you question those morals on. It makes both the characters' anarchic actions and their guilt regarding them understandable due to the focus more on the world that they are a part of. The characters are treated as a part of the ensemble that the game's world is, instead of being treated like abstract generalities. You're also able to see hints of the transformation from the get-go. The characters don't just suddenly turn into opposites because there encompass forces that both do and oppose their actions. Some of these hints are far clearer during the replays because to me the wickedness of Dutch van der Linde wasn't visible at all during the first playthrough. But as soon as I replayed it, everything was just so clear from the very beginning. Arthur does a lot of questionable things, and yet the growing conflict within him manifests itself in so many ways. Despite his flaws as a person, there's a lot to like about Arthur, which how he always cuts right to the chase, clears the air between the gang's members, and can make a decision for himself. Details related to his private life are aspects of intrigue throughout the game and make him even more likable as a character. The tragedy of Arthur Morgan's sickness doesn't simply transform him into someone different. Ever since Arthur's sickness happens, the plot simply elevates. The way his sickness influenced even the gameplay makes you feel for him even more. The game manages to connect gamers and myself so much with him that it felt so out of the place to play as John Marston right after the end of the Arthur story. However, the epilogue is one of the most beautiful parts of the game, regardless of its quirky beginning. It promises redemption for the tragedies that occurred at the end of the Arthur story. But with the knowledge of the first game's event, all one sees by the end is death, followed by more death. We get a great game, or two, every year. But rarely does a game hit you as hard as Red Dead Redemption 2 can be felt even more. It pushes the boundaries of storytelling, the synthesis of the storytelling and gameplay mechanics in the video games. And one could only wish for more games in their own peculiar ways to achieve what Red Dead Redemption 2 achieved. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do like and subscribe. I see you guys all later, and have a wonderful day.